He was just singing a song like this. This crow's gonna be a dead duck. Insomnia. Insomnia. Oh, is that insomnia? Insomnia is not a thing. All right, welcome back, man. I mean, this is J racism. That's what this is. They're who did this. Boss? If you wants to get sleep. Now, boss. He's gonna cook him. He's cooking him alive. I mean, it's like you kind of go, yeah, those are just silly cartoons until you realize sleep tight, pussy, he says. So he's chewing him. What? He just broke out of his eyeball. He had a big bag of sand, and he had a shovel. He had hay set up with an anvil underneath. Like, it's just stupid. And then, damn, I didn't see what that was. Oh, going through the thing, getting the baby doll clothes. Never seen that before. Wow, some good old-fashioned racism. And it's it's not accidental racism. It's not unknown racism. It's very, very well, carefully crafted, purposefully done racism. And people just don't. I mean, we see it and we talk about it. Yeah, things used to be so racist, and Hollywood used to be so racist, and shit like that. But that's where we stop. We don't go deeper. We don't dig anymore. Hollywood is not a person. Unconsciously program you. Yeah, no shit. That's exactly what it is.
You are such a
It's unconscious, but it's also I mean it's designed to entertain the adults who already think this way, but program the children who go mindless into it and they just shut off, and they just, yeah, it's cartoons. And and you see the narrative. Like, we're always told about. I always think it's funny how they talk about how violent TV is, and how the violence in TV affects us so much, and the violence and the violence and the violence on TV. But they don't talk about how the whitewashing affects us. They don't talk about how the jaywashing affects us. They don't talk about how women, women know their place because of TV. They don't talk about that. And the idea that that's what the woman's place is. Like, at the very least, imagine what it's like for all those guys out there who aren't gay, but who enjoyed cooking. And, who were great at it and or great at sewing or anything like that. You know, obviously they end up being like in every one of those women's fields, you know, where it's woman's work, a man is at the top of that field. A man is considered the best. Like Ramsay is considered the best chef. And you know what I mean? Like that's how that always works. But we call it women's work. Imagine how many men were just fucked up from it. I know I was fucked up from it. I know when I was growing up, because I had respect for women, because I didn't, like, I thought old cars were cool and all, but nothing to lose your shit over, you know. I thought that, you know, I mean, I just, the idea of a chick holding next to a car while she's in a bikini in a completely unnatural, it just never, it was like, okay, that's sort of like lowest common denominator kind of shit. But I know when I was a kid, I used to think, is there something wrong with me? You know, am I gay because of this? Am I gay because I don't, you know, like I think having sex with a woman is best. Missionary in the front so I can see them and interact with them and have exchanges with them and see their boobies moving and shit like that. You know, this whole idea of doggy style so I can look down at your butthole. Like, I don't, you know, and you know, and then I would see magazines like Hustler or, you know, any of those not Playboy magazines, and the girls are all sitting there, coochie all spread apart, and it's like, ugh. Why? Is there something wrong with me because I don't want to look inside your body? Like, I just don't understand that whole thing. Imagine if your girl was like, spread your penis hole open as wide as you can. I want to look inside your penis hole. You'd be like, what? That's weird. Wasn't watching that or anything.
No, you're talking.
All right, now I know this one of the realest, funniest thing. It's all the same shit, dude. It's all the same reel. It all comes from the same place. Understanding, like, what the fuck has been done to us. And the thing is, so I call this the bag of sand theory, right? And it's based off of the 40-year-old virgin. And it's basically that somebody can fit in. Like, you won't know somebody is a 40-year-old virgin until you're actually talking to them and they start talking about, you know, you start having the sex conversation and they say something stupid like a titty feels like a bag of sand. Immediately everybody's like, hey, wait a minute, what? You don't know what a titty feels like, do you? You're like that. It's like it's the bag of sand is the catalyst. It's the first sort of pebbles in the avalanche, and the avalanche happens pretty quickly afterward. But that's what all of these things are. These are these little pieces of the puzzle that you just have to sort of see that start the process going. And one of the best giveaways that we aren't in charge is that things like that, what it means to be a man. Well, if you look at the J culture, the woman is it's funny because it's like the woman is, the mother is like the end all be all, but outside of their own mother, they treat women pretty shitty, even their wives and shit. And so you have to start looking at the clues that you're given. And you see this idea, this closet homosexual group being in charge of things like the church and saying, you know, well, if you like girls, you can't come in here. You know, you have to be willing to override your God-given biological urges to spread your seed, because that somehow makes you a better church person. I don't fucking know. But you see all these little bags of sand everywhere. Where you go like, obviously people that don't know what it's like to live this life tell us what it's like to live this life. Go look at Good Times, right? Good Times is supposedly about what it's like to grow up in the projects as a young black family. The show was I wouldn't even say created, adapted by Norman Lear, which that's what he did. Norman Lear took successful you shows out from the UK and adapted them to make them American friendly, like putting American actors in place. And somehow he gets considered, like he's considered one of the greatest, television executive geniuses of all time. If you show me a bunch of shows that have done well in the UK, and let me just pick which ones I think would if we made an American version, like I could do that. I could easily do that. 100% whitewash, unfortunately. But it's beneficial to me as I'm not in a gang or running the streets. Well, you are in a gang, right? Because so many of us have been tricked into being in the Christian gang, or being in the American gang, or being in a truther gang, where we override our common sense or how we may see something because the narrative says to. Once we get over things like patriotism, then we sort of we start moving forward. IDK truth. I'd want people with guns on my side when crap goes down, but yeah, I don't want to be part of the gang crap either. I hope the bomb dropped hits my house. Like, I don't want anything to do with the survival situation where we got to kill each other and experience horrible, horrible things and life sucks. I don't want that. That doesn't sound good to me. I'm very, very fond of the life we live. I like going to my refrigerator and getting food. I like watching TV. Like, I love how so many truthers are like, man, I don't watch any TV. It's all program. How do you not watch TV? Like, it's one thing to watch TV obliviously and just be like, everything on TV is true, I guess, if that's what you do. But it's good to just shut off. That's why I watch the shit I watch, the cartoons and shit. I made my wife watch these yesterday, and they're just so stupid. And the thing that I find so fascinating is, like, that's what the leaders of today, that's what they grew up being programmed by. And it's a good way to know who we're up against and how they got that way by watching what programmed them. And then questioning who wrote those programs. I mean, it's the idea of All in the Family being this great revolutionary show. Because, I know people will say, oh, they made fun of Jays all the time. Do you know what the standard making fun of Jays is? What is it? What's the standard? Is it that they're, they beat their wives? No. Is it that they have the tiny, Asian penises? No. I mean, I don't think people walk around thinking Jays have huge hogs, but then again, Ron Jeremy's the most famous fucking porn star ever. Gee, I wonder how that guy got to be so, this ugly little troll got to be the #1 porn star. Must be because his work was so good. It's not even like he had a great penis. His shit was funkin' weird. It was all crookedy. Am I going to church today? I am church, bitch. This is church. We're in church right now. You're having a much more visceral religious experience on here than you would at church. You know why? Because you're allowed to contribute. With church, you're not allowed to contribute. They tell you what to think, tell you where to sit, tell you when to stand, tell you what to say, and you just say, oh, and also with you. Peace be with you, and also with you. And also peace be with you, and also with you. Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so stupid. If it all had a purpose long ago, it kind of changed with evangelicalism in the 70s. No, it didn't. It's never changed. It's always been the same bullshit. They just started figuring things out a little bit better. You know, they started manufacturing things. But the thing is, it was in the 80s when they just sort of made the blanket decision that today's Jays could no longer be held responsible for the Jays killing Jesus. And it was always interesting to me when like Pat Robertson would have like the head of you know, the Jerusalem Post on his station. There was this one day he was on there, and this was right after. Remember when supposedly artillery was the munitions and shit were fired at U.S. bases, and nothing happened. We were told. But then it came out later that people were really affected by it, blah, 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 blah. And Trump was like, I'm stupid. And in response to that, the Trump presidency launched 49 missiles into a civilian area and just lit the shit up. Remember that? Yeah, remember that? Well, a part that wasn't reported by anyone at the time, but was later reported by the Jerusalem Post, was that there were 400 some rockets launched at Israel. And his quote was that 90% of them were shot down by the Iron Dome. And so me, obviously being the prick that I am, I said, well, what about the other 10%? I mean, 10% of 400 is still 40. Are you telling me 40 rockets got through? Can you show me a single piece of evidence that shows that 40 rockets got through? And of course they don't attempt to. I mean, there's nothing like that. They just sort of laugh. But you could see how Pat is like, it's strange. Pat's doing what he has to do. You know, but see, like, if you take Pat Robertson or the 700 Club or anything like that, even a little bit seriously, you're like an idiot. Like, I mean, it's strange because you're the same person that won't believe in ghosts, that won't believe in magic and shit like that. But you believe that Pat could do it, and then he taught Gordon and whatever the broads, and like there was a few of them that he taught how to do it.
The touch? He taught him the touch?
Yeah, where they could in a pre-taped show. I mean, it's not even a live taping. You're not seeing it live. But in a pre-taped show, they can close their eyes real hard, put their hand in the air, and that somehow allows them to hear people's prayers, and then they can command God to change its mind. Because usually those people are people with like fucked up ailments, bad knees, sicknesses of some sort. Although they couldn't, instead of like individually touching, they couldn't just be like, hey, we're going to merge our powers to form, God Devastator God, and we're going to command God to wipe out COVID. Funny how they didn't do that. Touch! And COVID disappears. Funny how that didn't work. But when you think about what they're doing, what they're selling you that the idea that God, it's all part of God's plan, right? That God wanted you to have whatever ailment you're complaining about. And instead of taking the Job way out, where you're like, I'm not cursing God. God giveth and God taketh away. It's all to the good. You're bitching. Oh, my knee hurts. Oh, my liver's going to explode. Oh, I'm going to die in a couple of months. Right? You're bitching instead of, standing strong in your faith and not questioning your Lord's decisions. You're going to an intermediary. You're going to a third party, through a third party, to then tell God to fix whatever that thing is.
I thought you were supposed to be able to talk to God whenever you want to. Why do you need a third party?
What hasn't worked for you? Because you're sitting there wondering that shit. Like, I thought I could pray and God would answer my prayers, and and the fact that this thing's not happening must be because of, because I guarantee in real life when those people are asked about it, they say things like, I expect, but God has a plan. Like, I'm sure they say that in their regular lives. So, it's funny how, like, they'll put on the good show, but then behind the closed doors, they're willing to pay. They've prayed and prayed and prayed, and this shit hasn't gone away. So now they're willing to go sow a seed, because it's funny, somebody calls and sows $1,000 seed, and then within a week or two, their name just happens to be pulled out of thin air. I'm sensing a Gertrude from Virginia.
Oh my God! I just gave them $1,000 last week. That's why this is happening.
No, they don't think that way. They don't think that way at all. They're just caught up in it. Gertrude from Virginia, who has a bad knee. I'm feeling bad knee. I have a bad knee. My name's Gertrude. There are hundreds of women watching this that say the same thing. There are hundreds of women that are like, well, I'm in West Virginia. Maybe he just didn't get to West Virginia. You know what? I'm in Tennessee, but it sometimes people mix it up and think it's, I'm close. Maybe he's just, there are hundreds of people that make the excuse for why they stand up and claim that miracle. They don't want to have to keep paying the medical bills. They don't want to have to keep they don't mind taking certain drugs, but they don't want to be in pain. So they're desperate. Desperate. They've done all the praying they can do. They've had, they've hijacked their family's prayers. Hey, while you're praying for, the children to stop being molested by the priest, because I know that's what you're all doing. Make sure you ask God to take a look at Grandma's knee, please. I'm trying. He doesn't want to listen to me. But you've prayed and all the creams and the doctors are telling you you got some shit going. Your fucking cartilage is destroyed. Your whatever, your shit's all torn up. You need to go under the knife, and it's going to be a long process, and blah 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 blah. And you're like, I don't want to do that. I'm scared. God's not going to protect me during surgery, right? You don't think that's how that's going to work? Well, why wouldn't God just protect you during surgery? Oh, that's going to suck.
Yeah, it does. Clothespins holding them so they don't fall off.
No, I get it. I just trying to think, is there a way to connect the strings?
No, it's too floppy.
What if you put one of those things on it, wrapped it around?
Because the hole's too big for the holes in the beads.
I mean, this is the stuff. This is how they get people, and there are literally they are making millions of dollars tax free. I've called the 700 Club so many times. They get so mad at me so quickly.
They don't like you very much.
No, I mean, I'm sure at this point when my number comes up, I already know it. I already know that's what it is, because I've had them tell me we've seen this number come up before, and you know.
You suck.
Right, you didn't have any nice things to say.
You didn't give us any money.
We are the higher power. No, there is no higher power. How about that? A higher power is God. You're smart enough to get past religion, but at the same time, you're still so programmed you believe the narrative. So you just call it something different. The higher power, you know, the energy that connects us all and knows everything. Yeah, that's God. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be God.
But why do we have to believe in something like that? Like, the thing is,
it's really fucking arrogant to think that we're, supreme.
But see, that's a crazy jump. That's like an arrogant thing to say in response, to assume that my thought is that we are supreme, so there can't be anything more above us. That's not what I'm saying.
Well, what would you call whatever would be above us? A general term would be a higher power.
Well,
again, it
but whatever above us, I mean, it's nothing. I don't.
Who knows?
I don't know about that. And that to me, the thing about all that is whatever the supernatural bullshit you want to believe in is, it doesn't represent me. Because if I had any sort of powers whatsoever, the pedos wouldn't be fucking, that shit would go away. You know, those people would have heart attacks. Those people would personally, I think what should happen is, if you get found out to be a violator or rapist of any kind, there are people that can sign up to be a part of the the solution, so to speak, where you can say, look, I have those tendencies inside me. I have that ability inside me to do horrible things to someone. I haven't done it before, but I feel like I might. Shut it.
Do I have a package here?
I don't know. They're walking across the street. They're separate, so they're probably not having much fun. They hate me so much. They don't understand that they're learning valuable lessons with this. Getting told no over and over again, going to the same house but getting told no, that is a huge lesson. That's a huge source of strength in the long run. That you can do that and it not affect you. That you just, that was the last house. On to the next house. This builds confidence. This builds character. I mean, you remember you guys are mad and you're going to, we're going to call DHS because you're making your kids go outside and shovel snow.
Where are they at now?
The steps.
Oh, Bart.
Hey, Nate, get up and do the work.
Bart only did part of hers because he was doing hers. He only did part of it.
What? And you're going to do more? Well, then what the hell does that have to do with anything? You got to do the whole neighborhood. Yep, you're going to be out there all day till it gets dark.
Here, give them a.
I need my crack money. They're out there getting my crack money. See? I'm sniffling, which means I do drugs. And then my biggest issue, the reason I do so many drugs is because after I do them, I blow them all out of my nose, not letting them actually do what they're supposed to do. Ain't I a stinker? Did you know that blah, blah? No, you don't know that shit. You read that shit and you chose to believe it. Like, this is the difference between you and I. Is you're almost here. You just haven't. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it takes for you to get here. I mean, I've been talking about Gaialism for a decade. But I've also, like I know a lot of you are sort of new to this, right? You were somehow going along your life. You voted. You maybe even got your first few shots, whatever it may be. Like, you maybe even believe 9/11, whatever. You've been on that side of the fence, and now recently or within the last couple years, you've sort of been like, what's going on here? I've always been this person. I've never, do you ever, you've known me almost 20 years now. Do you ever remember me believing anything?
No. No.
And actively, like,
You used to say that you believed that there was something bigger, more intelligent than us, but that was at the beginning.
there might be. I don't ever remember, like, I don't ever remember believing anything like that. I don't, like, maybe there's some sort, I believe that we're connected more than we think we are. There's tons of examples of that. But as far as some sort of consciousness doing it, unified, no. I don't believe any of that shit. When we got together, I believed we lived on a round ball flying through space.
Yeah, but that was different.
Right. Well, but I'm saying, like, I have changed. But I've always, like, I can remember being a kid sitting in church and wondering what the fuck was going on here. Why are all these adults? Like, what are they hearing that I'm not hearing? They must know more about it than I do, because everything I'm hearing sounds really dumb. The only reason I know that supposedly there was a truce at nighttime between the Confederates and the Union, so they could clear the battlefields by candlelight or whatever. I don't know. But it's because when my teacher we were reading about, notes that were written by soldiers dying on the battlefield, my smart ass was like, how did we get those? How the hell would we get notes from people dying on the Civil War battlefield? Where would those, why would we have those? How did we get those? And the teacher was like, oh, well, they had a truce at nighttime and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I mean, it's like, I'm not allowed to keep going with that line of questioning. Like, do they have a big bonfire or some shit? Were they lucky and it just happened to be the fucking full moon? But even then, I really want to know how they were able to distinguish the difference between gray and blue at nighttime, especially like covered in mud and blood and crud and,
Oh, Hank, this one's yours. Thought it was ours. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hey. Oh, you almost shot me. I saw you out there. Man, the bullet whizzed right by my. I'm going to get you tomorrow, though. I will be cleaning up your dead body tomorrow. Don't you worry. All right. You have a good night. Can you imagine how stupid that is? So if I'm just reading it, it's not true. Where are you reading it's not true? Or is it you just gut feeling? How much do you think a submarine weighs? I don't think about things like that. I don't think about how much boats weigh. That's never a thing I think about.
Maybe you should.
Wait, what about the rest of the neighborhood?
Oh, we asked everybody down there.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. When we were going by to pick up our money from the one guy.
Go ahead, go.
No. Please, no.
What?
So tired. No, please.
Did you get any?
Yeah.
You did?
Mary Jo's and we're going to get our money later from the one guy that said he was going to give us
But you didn't get any new ones?
No.
I don't think you guys are trying very hard.
We are.
Bullshit.
In fact, this time I wasn't sitting down in the snow.
And you were asking people.
Yeah.
You guys asked everybody. You knocked on every door.
On this side.
What about on the side? Come back up.
Yeah.
You did this side. What about that side?
We did this side and that side, but not over here because those people never play. Even the times that.
What are you talking about? How far up this side?
Yellow house.
Okay. I don't think you're telling the truth.
Go get Rosie, Clarence, Ernie. That's why.
I don't want those girls coming over. I hate those girls. Oh. Of course. Of course. The Civil War. What a bunch of dumb shit.
Hi, Zeke.
It's funny how there's all these like
Okay, good.
well staged photographs. But it's just I just don't buy it all, you know. 1860s and shit where
Oh, shit.
you know, where they're not only are they involved in civil war, they're also, you know, building tunnel systems underneath Chicago and you know, New York, and you know, building all the buildings up, and just, you know, I mean, it's just, you know, so much of the narrative makes more sense if you look at it like what we're told were wars or big fires or whatever was them destroying the old world. You know, the one of the things that I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard anybody else say it, so I thought about it the other day. I'm sure other people have said it, but was that, you know, we're so conditioned to see the old world structures and just be what?
Since we did snow today, can you play an hour early?
No.
Did
Yeah, go ahead.
did that guy give you money?
No, he's still asleep.
Okay.
Joe said when he wakes up.
It's fine. He already came by once, so he'll come back
Yeah.
by.
No, he wants them to come down, but he's asleep, so that's fine.
Why does he want them to come down? That's weird. Like what we think of is these magnificent churches, or like, you know, Capitol buildings and the random skyscraper or whatever. We think of these as just magnificent because they stand out, right? But we don't realize that these probably were just average buildings. You know, that those buildings were everywhere. The magnificent houses that you see that still exist, they might even be small for all we know. You know, those old school castle houses and whatnot that just don't fit the narrative. They've been there as long as anybody can remember. They surprisingly don't require a bunch of upkeep. Nobody can ever remember seeing anybody on there working on them. But I used to work at a place, parking cars at a restaurant in Detroit called the Whitney. And this building was rumored to be haunted and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it's this old world building surrounded by all this modern day parking lots and just shit. And of course it stands out as this beautiful, you know, the opposite of eyesore, right? Like it's amongst all these eyesores, you have this like bastion, this oasis. But prior to what it is now, there were all sorts of Whitneys all over the place. They just destroyed them. And who knows why they chose to keep the ones that they did. I'm not going to sit here and claim that I know all of the fucking pieces of the puzzle. Clearly, there's more to it. Seems like a lot of it is probably associated with the underground catacombs. That the big churches that exist, or even, you know, that all of these places have these secret underground levels that then lead to the tunnel networks. So maybe there's a reason why they kept these particular buildings, because they're entrances, or I don't know. I can't possibly know. Is Tupac still alive? Who fucking cares? Probably, but who cares?
He's with Elvis and Jimmy.
Well, no, Tupac was, like, he's been seen multiple times. I hate saying it, but I could swear I saw Tupac one time.
He is not alive. You guys are fucking crazy.
We
He's
were-
not dead.
No, he wasn't. There's, like, very little proof of that. Remember, Tupac was supposedly shot like 7 times prior to this. Just like 50 Cent. 50 Cent. And yet these guys walk around shirtless all the time. And I don't know if you've ever seen what somebody that's been shot looks like. Like, especially a black guy. But, like, it'll be all white around where they got shot. It'll be like somebody took an eraser and just went over their whole... Like, you don't maintain your pristine, beautiful body and all the muscle tones and all that after you've been shot. But me and Beth were driving west we were driving east on 96, probably going to get some weed, when this car, like, we came up on this car. I think we actually came up on the car. No, the car kind of came up on us, I think. We were going, but the car came up on us. And we looked over, and he looked at us, and she was like, holy shit, that's Tupac. And I was like, that kind of looks like Tupac. So I hammer the gas to try to keep up. And this guy, I don't know what the fuck he was in, but his car just took off. Meow. It went from, you know, what was like 70 to, I don't know, well over 100 within, and didn't even look like a special car. It was like a, you know, just a regular old school, clean looking, but old school looking car. Looked over at us, we looked at him, we made eye contact, and it was like as soon as he realized that we realized who it was, he took off. Now, again, there's all sorts of who knows what the fuck that was associated with that. I know he wasn't driving that fast until we realized it was him. Then he just hammered it. And this was after he you know, this was a year, 2, 3 years after he died. We were shocked. There was no Tupac was alive rumors like that. And if there was, we were kids and it wasn't an internet. So how the fuck did we know? It was so fucking weird. But these are stories that, like, that's obviously, you've been with me for 20 years. You ever heard that story before? No.
It sounded vaguely familiar, but I mean, at the same time, like
The
when
point
you were young
being,
kids, what
it's
were
not a
guys-
story that I talk about because I can't prove anything. I don't know about that. Like, I think about it. I'm definitely
what
big
sort
into
of
the Tupac conspiracy.
extracurricular activities did you guys have along for the ride as well?
I mean, now you just sound like an old lady who doesn't know what pot does.
I'm not saying
Right? Like it wasn't. It was. We were on our way to go get the weed. This wasn't back when we always had weed. We had to go get our dime bags.
and this was in California?
No, this was 96 in Detroit. Here.
In Detroit.
Why would any of it take place? I don't know. That's why I don't bother with it. I only brought it up because it's a goofy little story for right now. Because somebody said it's Tupac alive. I don't fucking know. Nor do I care. I think the Tupac story is fucking fascinating. Because like he was clearly not a gangster. For some strange reason.
We wanted him to be a gangster so bad.
No, for some strange reason, he was interviewed in his high school days when he went to this prestigious dance and art school. You know, the gangster. He was classmates with Jada Pinkett Smith. And who else? I don't know who else. But then he's interviewed and he's clearly gay. Like, there's no, like, not saying there's anything wrong, just saying he's definitely not a gangster. He's clearly gay. And when you actually think about it, like, what sex do you know Tupac had without a shadow of a doubt? He didn't have any kids. He doesn't have a wake of, like, can you imagine me being famous in my 20s, Tupac famous in my 20s?
Oh my god, no.
The wake would just be,
Immense. It would.
it would just be forever. But the rumors with Tupac was that he wasn't about that. He was all about being in the studio and hanging out with his niggas. You know? That was his thing. Didn't hang out with chicks. And even the chicks that he was associated with, like Jada Pinkett, again, you're sort of getting into a very androgynous world when you're openly androgynous world with Jada.
Really?
Yeah. And then that
Why?
why what? You know, there's so many stories about her and Will and what they do and just all kinds of, you know, just not standard stuff. I don't nothing wrong. Again, you do whatever you want. As long as you're not fucking with kids or people against their will, I don't give a shit what you do.
I thought you were saying people are saying she was born a man. I was
Oh
gonna
no,
say,
no,
she is all
no.
woman.
No, she's sexy.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah, I think Jada's badass. But like Erykah Badu, I think is another one that was I can't remember the three girls that are associated with Tupac. But the only sex that you absolutely know yet, because those girls none of the girls talk about it. They talk about how their relationship with him was more spiritual than anything else. It wasn't as physical. There wasn't nearly as much of a physical side. It was blah blah. Like they say all kinds of shit. The only sex you know Tupac had for sure was when he was convicted of raping that girl in her butt while she was forced to give his homie head. How he got convicted of that
I don't.
and was still allowed to be Tupac just shows you everything. You know, Tupac, when I think of pants sagging, I know I've been sagging my pants since 6th grade when the kids when Tony Ford started doing it and we were all teased for not doing it. So
Tell them that Mary Jo just called them rock stars.
Mary Jo said you guys are rock stars. You did a great job. Huh?
Good call. When is she gonna give us the money? Right. And then he was like, never mind. But you know, you just have to put it together. Like Tupac he was a backup dancer for Digital Underground. That's where he got his
Was he?
start. Yeah.
Oh my
He
God.
got his start as a backup dancer.
I didn't even know he was that kind of a dancer because he didn't like.
He didn't do it. But when I think about pants sagging, like the images that come to mind are like, how do you want it, maybe? Or I don't know. Tupac running around in black pants with white fucking underwear on, and his pants are sagging super low, and he's got his shirt off. That's sort of my like earliest.
Yeah, with his do rag and
His do rag all facing
his
forward
white
with the little
beater.
bunny ears on.
his
You know.
white beater and his jeans, his little something hanging out, a handkerchief hanging out of his pocket or something.
Well, no, I'm talking about a different. This is when he's walking. He's shirtless. He has black pants on.
Oh.
Yeah. But he also used to rock. He was the one that rocked the little bunny ears one. The little bunny ears. He's a gangster. You know, the thing about the autopsy footage is Tupac had just recently gotten a tattoo that doesn't show in the autopsy footage. So,
Was it fake?
what?
His tattoo, was it a fake tattoo?
He had just gotten he didn't just get a fake tattoo. He just got a new tattoo. And yet the autopsy footage doesn't show it. So, but like Tupac was, you know, for being this anti-establishment, you know, gangster, you know, the white man's biggest enemy. I mean, think about one of Tupac's more famous magazine covers where he's basically naked in a bathtub looking up, and he's got gold. He's in a bathtub full of gold, and it's supposed to imply that he's naked in the tub with with gold chains and all sorts of shit covering him. Because that's what a gangster does. You know? Like these are all gay guys. Gay guy actors who are willing to portray the worst elements of society so that they can get their little piece. Are we to believe that all of the black guys that make songs, that none of them have anything to say? It's always the same Bacardi and party rhyme.
I mean,
Black ice, call me
why
Farside.
do you think they pull them from
It ain't tricking if you got it.
parts of the country that have the worst level of education?
Yeah, but where
so
do
that
they
can't say something.
But even if they do, like where do they, like people don't think about it. These rappers that keep popping up, they're not going around the country in a van playing in little bars and any little clubs they can get signed into, and you know, they're not doing that, chasing the American dream like that.
No, now they
They're
can
just
do it with a computer.
Right, they're just getting discovered. But even before that, before you could find them on with the simple couple clicks, where were these guys coming from? Same thing with all your white musicians. You know, where do they just come from? Especially when most of them are teenagers. So I'm supposed to believe that teenagers, I mean, what, fresh out of high school, so they've maybe been touring for a year or two. Somehow these guys were touring around, building up their, like, what are we talking about here? Why do we only like music from teenagers and 20-year-olds who've never experienced anything? Like all those guys that made those great songs that we liked when they were in their 20s, by the time they get to their 30s and start writing more in-depth songs about the way, I don't want to hear that. Where's the Bacardi party rhymes? Bacardi party, Bacardi party.
I mean, there's some. When I went to the Ladies Love Wine gathering, about half of those girls were like your typical Garden City, Westland, older drunk ladies. That's what they were. They went to all the parties and just drank and were loud.
Woo!
They're the ones that want that. And I sat at a table full of them, and it was very awkward. like Marcy was asking me, why didn't you come to the last gathering? I'm like, because I like you. It's like 2 of you I like. The rest are not my. I mean, they're nice.
It's just not your crowd.
They're the Bacardi party people. That's who likes them.
They're the NPCs.
Yeah.
That's the shit that like is so
They just
fascinating to
do
me.
what
How do
they're
they?
supposed to. Their minivans.
These
They-
women are getting hammered
Yeah.
and then driving their
Oh, yeah.
minivans.
Yeah. Hammered. They
Hammered.
got
Wine fucks you up and fucks you up in a funny
Oh
way.
no, we went to the bar. They were all just getting wine. Which can drink.
That's so scary.
I
That's
had-
so terrifying.
I sipped on 1 drink the whole time I was there. And these girls are throwing this shit, and they're all big girls.
Big girls, right?
You
Because
know,
their
and they're
bodies are
all
fucking
loud
destroyed
and-
from all that shit.
And laughing out loud, like, you know. Oh, it was,
How did that become the thing? How did that?
they have a spring thing.
You know what it is though? It's also it's a result of oppression, right?
It really is.
So you're gonna get that crazy swing, like when the pendulum is swung this way, and you know you're supposed to be a little girl, and you're supposed to do what you're told, and blah 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 blah, and then it swings. It's gonna swing back the other way, and it's gonna take a little while. Like we like to think like, oh, it's been years, but it was swung the other way for centuries, at least as far as we're told.
Rowley.
It's about to happen.
Stop. Stop. Stop growling. He's not even looking at you.
There she goes. It just makes you wonder what he does to her when we're not looking.
He doesn't do shit. That cat sleeps and eats.
No, he does. He stalks. He's an asshole. Anyway. We just don't, we don't, we're so on the surface and we all think we're so deep. You know, everyone, like nobody will tell you, yeah, I'm just a dumbass NPC. I don't think very deeply, or nobody says that. Everybody thinks extremely high of themselves. And you go, oh, really? Okay, you think highly of it's cool. Let's talk about something. And they go, oh, me no talk. Like we've been programmed in the worst ways and we just don't realize it. We do realize it, but we don't want to see how and why. So it just continues. Like the whole cult church thing. Seriously, don't you think with all the concessions the church gets, the fact that they're constantly caught raping children, the fact that they have all this tax-free property and income, and just like all the power they have over voting, and just so much shit that they get, this advantage that they have. You would think their contribution list would be a mile long. And it would be a bunch of stuff where you would go, without the church, there's no way that could happen. And literally nothing exists in that realm. And the good stuff that the church does, where you're like, yeah, well, they help people sometimes. You know, maybe. I mean, you know, I know that there was a few years ago, there was a woman that gave birth on the steps of the Vatican.
Yes.
And it was this big deal because they were like, look, the church, they took her in, they put her up, they did all this shit, they blah, blah, blah.
Fucking better.
Well, but nobody's talking about the fact that she was there prior to giving birth.
Yeah.
And they turned her ass away.
Right.
Like that's the like she didn't need to give birth on the steps. They knew she was going to give birth before she gave birth on the fucking steps. But they're masters of spin, and then of course because they work with the chosen media, it's all just one big fucking conglomerate against us. The narrative is given to you. Oh, look at how great the church was for helping this girl out. Are you fucking kidding me? Bitch had to give birth on the steps. it's weird to me again how this is the piece of the puzzle I'm just struggling with the most is what is this difference that we have? I mean, just like there's a whole bunch of idiots that routinely come back here and hate me so much that they watch me for hours, day after day, month after month. Like I'm much more willing to say that that's just Israeli bots. But if you want me to believe that you're a real person that is that much of a loser and that obsessed with me, okay, like, sure, I guess. But like, I can't reconcile that. Like, I don't understand. I get the thing where like you're a loser, you don't get any attention, so you try to find attention any way you can, and because you're not capable of positive attention, you create the negative attention, and that's because you were abused, and that's how you like. I get all that stuff, but at the end of the day, are you someone that supports pedo stuff? Are you someone that supports genocide? Are you someone that wants the J slavery to continue over the rest of us? Like, are these is this your fight? What's going on here? I can't wrap my head around that. I can't understand. I don't even understand what people are here for in the first place. If you don't support me to come here for weeks and weeks on end, like when I used to watch the 700 Club, I watched the 700 Club to be informed. I wanted to know what they wanted us to know. And sometimes the 700 Club did news stories about shit that the other news wasn't doing at the time. Like how all the other news stations didn't cover the fact that Trump signed the legislation saying that the college campuses and universities all had to be pro-Israel and remove any BDS or anti-Israel groups or propaganda, whatever, had to actively remove at the risk of losing federal funding. Nobody else covered that. I watched the news that day. They didn't talk about that shit. Strangely enough, only the 700 Club, who supposedly supports the Jays and all that, they were the ones essentially exposing what was happening while everyone else was being all hush hush and still talking about Kobe Bryant. This 700 Club took 10 minutes or so, 5 minutes to do one of their like secondary stories about it. They have a formula that they follow. And the first story is always about Israel. Well, yeah, actually, it was probably the first story. Since the first story, at least in the last few years, and especially the last few months of me watching, it was all, either Israel or COVID. And it really started shifting to all COVID that just made me want to just put it all down. But it's such a strange, like the whole thing is just this really strange narrative that I'm on this journey, this personal journey to sort of try to understand things. And I don't know what your thing is. Like, do you believe you have an understanding? You get it and it all makes sense. And if that's the case, then, do it. Like, tell us, let me know. Because it seems like every time I dig even a little deeper, I mean, it ends up, I end up finding the J's. Doesn't matter what you believe in. If you dig deep enough, you find out that the J's are behind it and they want you to believe it. It's weird. Like next time my wife isn't here, I have to take advantage of that because I really want to but see, I really want you here at the same time because you know what to look up. But I'd love to look up the whole star chart. Like, I'd love to look up that spiritual side of things and see if there's that same connection. I would assume there is. Let's do this. Let's just do something real simple.
I mean, I have your birth chart and your human design chart that you can look at.
I'd love to do that, but I would love, again, you have to understand that I'm.
You're skeptical. I get it.
So this is like your opportunity to do to me what I do to everything else. Okay. This is the latest accepted revision reviewed on February 3rd, 2025. That's interesting. Last accepted revision, meaning you can't just fucking adjust this. You can't just edit this shit. You can try, but as soon as you make an edit, a flag goes off and there's somebody that reviews it and decides whether your edit stays or not.
Well, yeah, you have to be vetted to make an edit.
Vetted to make an edit. Vetted to make an edit. Vetted. Ooh, to make an edit. Gotta be vetted. Make an edit. Okay. The zodiac is a belt-shaped region of the sky that extends approximately 8 degrees north and south celestial latitude of the ecliptic. The apparent path of the sun across the celestial sphere over the course of the year. Within this zodiac belt appears the moon and the brightest planets along their orbits. The zodiac is divided along the ecliptic into 12 equal parts called signs, each occupying 30 degrees of celestial longitude. These signs roughly correspond to the astronomical constellations with the following modern terms. Again, we just did this. You're YOUR just crazy. Don't you love when super smart people attack me? Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. The signs have been used to determine the time of the year by identifying each sign with the days of the year the sun is in the respective sign. In Western astrology, and formerly astrology or astronomy, and formerly astronomy. Why would it be formerly?
I don't know.
In Western astrology and formerly, so why am I having such a hard time here? And formerly astronomy, it's all rhyming and shit, fucking with me. The time of each sign, God, it's just fucking poetry. The time of each sign is associated with different attributes. The zodiacal, is that it? The zodiacal system and its angular measurement in 360 degree sexagesimal degree. In 360 sexagesimal degree originated with Babylonian astronomy during the first millennium BC. How convenient. It originated in the minus ones. Just before the zero that doesn't exist. And then we just go from minus 1 to 1. Did they know that? I wonder if they knew that. The signs of blah, 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 blah. It was communicated in Greek astronomy by the 2nd century BC. Wait. Are we going backwards here? As well as into developing the Hindu zodiac, which is amazing. Due to the precession of the equinoxes, the time of year that the sun is in a given constellation has changed since Babylonian times, and the point of March equinox has moved from Aries into Pisces, which is us going from into the age of Aquarius. That's what that whole thing is, right? No, it has moved. I thought it moved from Pisces into Aquarius. I thought that's what.
Aquarius is before Pisces.
Right. I thought it went. No.
Yeah, Capricorn, Aquarius, and
No, it's Aries into Pisces, it says. The zodiac forms a celestial coordinated system, or more specifically, an elliptical coordinated system, which takes the ecliptic as the origin of latitude and the sun's position at the vernal equinox as the origin of longitude. In modern astronomy, the elliptical coordinate system is still used for tracking solar system objects. You know what's funny? Is so many people will be like, dude, obviously they have all these scientists and everybody, but there's no fucking way you would be able to do this without the communication that we have from around the world and the access to records from previous observations.
you can measure this. Can you measure this?
No, I can hold it while you do.
Well, don't push.
I'm not. But like, again, you'll have all this arrogant nonsense where people will act like you're stupid for not believing this and act like they somehow know this is true because they've experienced it when they haven't. You know, you're only told this shit. Nobody's keeping track of this other than the people that it behooves them for you to believe it because their whole existence revolves around you buying whatever narrative they're selling. The English word zodiac derives from zodiacus, the Latinized form of the ancient Greek zodiakos, zodiacus klikos. Did I get that right?
Zodiacos Kiklos.
Zodiacos kiklos. Right? Because, of course, I mean, why not? Why wouldn't zodiac derive from the Latinized form of the Greek word? Meaning cycle or circle of little animals. That's what that means. Zodion is the diminutive of Zun. The name reflects the prominence of animals and mythological hybrids among the 12 signs. Funny how, as always, like with the Chinese, everything in the Chinese zodiac is a real life animal except for dragons. They decided to add dragons.
Dragons are real life.
These ancient people, you know, they all were like, hey, let's do a bunch of real shit and then we'll throw some fake shit in there. And everybody everywhere was like, yeah, okay, we're cool with it. I mean, just to think about, because we're going to get into the fucking, into the history of it here in a second. But just think about, we're talking about, it's really hard for me to do this because it's like, we're talking about donkey people, right? But then I know we're also talking about the people that built the aqueducts and the Colosseum and who knows what the fuck else they built that was destroyed, and somehow they had a Library of Alexandria. How do you have a big fucking Library of Alexandria back in this day, in this time? Where did all those books come from? Who were all these publishing houses that had all these books that were printed, I mean, I guess distributed to multiple libraries, because I would imagine the Library of Alexandria was just the big library, you know. But think about that. And then, of course, all the the narrative, all the logic, all the everything that was supposedly lost in that shit. Because, of course, if it wouldn't have burnt down, then it would still exist today, because somehow the paper they used back then lasts forever. I mean, we just like how we totally overlook the idea of tunnel systems. And we just like, yeah, they had ancient tunnel systems, ancient sewer systems, ancient this, like, I think one of those quote funny things is when women would be walking along the street and they would stand over one of those grates and it would blow and their dress would pop up. Marilyn Monroe made it famous, but that little bit had been used forever. I mean, isn't that so funny? Yeah. The girl doesn't want to, like, she's walking and all of a sudden her bits and pieces get shown to everybody like that.
No, they don't. Her fucking pantaloons and her 12 other layers do. Come on, let's be real.
Well, but back then that was
wearing a thong.
That was pretty sexy. People were like, damn, look at those pantaloons. They're all beige. Ooh, the skin color. Damn. I bet she's pale as fuck under there.
You know? For real.
But it never occurred to me. It was never something I thought of until recently. When first of all, you see that they have the perfectly formed sidewalks that bump up to the dirt roads. They had sidewalks and shit, but dirt roads. But those air vents that are underneath the sidewalk, I mean, how old are those? What's going on? Does that shoot up air because, the pneumatic tube systems were pumping the air out and that was where it came from? Or that's where it came out? But even then, who built that? That's underneath the fucking sidewalk. This concrete that they somehow had, and concrete. And then the tunnel system that had to be under there to accommodate this jet of air. Like, what? Why are we all so comfortable with that just existing and not worrying about it? Anyway, sorry, I got way too far off. We're back at the Zodiac. The name reflects the prominence of animals and mythological hybrids among the 12 signs in English. In English, the term zodiac may also be used in reference to or translation for the similar 12-year cycle, also sometimes applied to other time units than years. Of the East Asian-derived systems referred to as the Chinese zodiac. See also earthly branches. Similarities include the use of animals or theriomorphic figures associated with the 12-year cycle used culturally to allege or describe personality traits and or life events and their interrelationships, thus this use in translation. See, again, to think about that some peasants, some scientists, some whatever it was, were sitting there mapping the sky in the Arabic place. And they were like, all right, these stars are like lions and shit like that. And at the same time, the Asians were like, that shit's like frogs and dragons and shit. Same stars. Same fucking constellations and shit. Well, we're just going to call them different shit. And it's all within the same 12-year cycle. Like, they figured out that they were in 12-year cycles. They just had, entirely different meanings, entirely different, like...
Actually, you'd be surprised at similarities in the traits across the boards.
Sure. But I'm saying entirely different, like, interpretations of these things. And then with the Asian versions, these things go way, way in all these other directions that I guess they were just more into it. I don't know. All right. History. Early history. As early as the minus 1300s, 1400s, 1500s. I'm pretty sure it would have to be 1300s, right? Because it's the 21st century now in the 2020s. So when you're going backwards, it would still have to be the same thing, right? You would still say, if it's the 14th century, it's the 1300s.
Mm-hmm.
So in the minus 1300s, because that's the 14th century, minus 1300s, a complete list of 36 Egyptian deacons was placed among the hieroglyphs adorning the tomb of Seti the First. They figured again in the temple of Ramses II and characterized every Egyptian astrological monument. Both the famous zodiacs of Dendera display their symbols identified by Carl Richard Lipsius. So this is some of my favorite shit here. This is a Roman Egyptian coin of Antiochus Pius, dated year 8 of his reign, or 145 AD. Exactly. Showing his portrait and a zodiac wheel with the busts of Helios and Selene in the center. So, please tell me who was mass producing coinage that incredible in 145? And how? Are we just saying blacksmiths are just making molds and just pouring
Yeah,
them?
that's what they do.
Yeah.
Well, it's a stamp. So that would have been stamped on the hot metal.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it would
Over
have
they're
been-
just they're
Well, like,
making.
Think about the wax seals that they used to make, like a
I get you.
stamp.
I get you.
That it's the same principle that they
No,
would
it's
have used.
not.
So they would have had a sheet of hot metal.
They have to.
And they would have
It's
had
inversed.
the stamp and just stamped.
It's inversed. Right. They have a sheet of hot metal
that
because-
they ended up with their forge.
with their forges that they made, right? Because they were capable of making these incredible forges, maintaining these fire sources.
Forge is little tiny.
It would have to be a lot bigger than that if you're going to mass produce coins.
Yeah,
First of all, you have to be able to carve this inversed with little tiny chisels.
tools. Well, if they only had to do it once, then yeah.
They didn't only have to do it once. If you're going to build a stamp that's going to be used, especially in a metal making process like this, they can only make so many, and then they have to reuse them, or they have to remake them.
Okay, but they don't
That's
have
in
to
today's,
make
and that's
as many as they make coins.
no. We're talking. These coins were made in the billions.
No way.
Of course,
way.
they're the society that they're talking
There
about.
weren't that many people.
They claim that there were, that these societies were hundreds of thousands of people. Hundreds of thousands of people that had multiple versions of monies in their pocket. And each individual little land ownership place had their own fucking coinage and shit like that. And they would change their coinage depending on who the king and shit was. So what happened to those coins? Did they lose value?
They were melted down, collected and destroyed by the.
Other than the ones that seem to somehow have survived all this time.
Well, yeah, the Kingsmen went around and gathered them, and I'm sure there was a few people that kept some for nostalgia, or because they loved that previous king, or whatever.
Okay, but then so all of your money is gone.
No, it was replaced with the new money.
Okay, so again, we're talking about mud hut donkey people who there's like a treasury that's a localized treasury where these people
The palace.
that don't, I mean, it's not like they punch a clock or anything.
No.
They just go around to all these different places and set up, and then people come in and change out their money
No. No, they went from house to house. And
do you understand how ridiculous that is? How would they know where everyone's houses are?
because of the the little
No, these are
whatever knew where all the dead people
no, they
lived.
didn't. The
Yeah, they
people were
did.
the
You had to
people
go
were
there to go get your wheat, and you went
the
there to go get
people
your
were
corn.
scattered all throughout the countrysides, up and down mountains and all that other shit. People were everywhere.
And if you were part of the barter system of a village, people knew
It
where
clearly
you were.
wasn't a barter system. It was clearly a monetary system. That you know, again, that they had all of this material to mass produce this coinage that was then equated to something. And I mean, think about all of the intricate details that went into this. These people that we're told are like, you know, donkey people. These are the donkey people, except for the few, you know, people that we still know about that live to be 90, 100 years old, that happen to be good at fucking everything, that wrote in books and shit that still exist. And they figured out things like, you know, I mean, even this shit with the Zodiac. Well, there was no telescope and shit back then. So what were they, you know, how were they, I mean, the idea
There weren't
that
as many
Mercury,
lights, so the sky was a lot clearer. There wasn't
Mercury,
as much pollution, so I'm sure the skies were a lot clearer. They could see shit a lot better. I'm sure that's part of it.
small part, Mercury was discovered in 262 BC. You know, that planet that you could only see during the day. How the fuck else would how would we see Mercury? Are we saying that they were keeping such just incredible views and details of the sky that for the 15 minutes that Mercury is visible, they mapped it. Oh, that's a planet. That's a that's going around the sun. That's a Mercury. I mean, the thing is, they didn't even think that way. What we're told of is planets and shit. These are the wandering stars. You know, we just, you've been, like, people say it all the time. Dude, so you're saying everything we see is round and we're not? It just goes to show you how thick you are, how well programmed you are when you thought processes.
Well, from a young age, we're taught to not think for ourselves.
Exactly.
So once that becomes ingrained, and then over generation, from generation to generation.
So why are we so different?
Because you don't want to hear. It's the time for us all to be waking up. An evolution is happening.
Sure, but why are we?
Crucial.
What makes us so much different and so much more unique than everyone else?
It's
Seeing the exact same narrative.
Open enough of our brain to
How?
I don't know.
Right.
Over years of teachings and enlightenment and people coming back to nature.
That's not what I get mine from.
And you know, all of it.
I've been the weirdo my whole life.
You've been a weirdo your whole life, but let's face it. Like, you started really turning on when we started getting rid of the toxins in our home.
To some degree.
In your perspective widening and your thought process.
No, I really do attribute the majority of it to access. The internet really did.
Then and prior to that?
Yeah, but it was so much more limited. I mean, it's funny because it was more limited, but there was also, it was more Wild West. Like you could much more easily find documentaries about things, loose changes and whatnot. But you know, with this perspective that I have now, I know that the reason that is because they wanted it to be. It wasn't anything accidental, and it literally just comes from, you know, looking it up. You know, because I mean, I think we all do this. We all see shit. We hear about a story. You know, I hate throwing her under the bus, but there's been a couple of times where she's said something and been like, this happened, and didn't look it up herself. She just trusted the thing that she saw, and it backfired. You know, and that's something that I had to learn. I did that, you know, a lot of time before. But like that's, we these are the things that
Do we
we have.
girls in our house?
I don't know. These are the things that we have to sort of understand that like they're they're hip to the game, right? Like they're pumping out misinformation. They want you to look stupid. They want you to believe something that is designed to touch on certain emotional feelings so that instead of looking, you want it to be true. As bad as it is, you want it to be true because it backs up what you were saying. The whole thing with like when the Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin, I don't know which one it is. I never know which one's which. I think Buzz is the goofy one that we see all over the place, right? When Buzz Aldrin was, the narrative was that Buzz Aldrin admits we didn't go to the moon. And then it was this clip of him being interviewed by this little Asian girl. And it was shared a gazillion times. But I don't think anybody actually watched it. Because she clearly says, you guys went to the moon, and he's going, yep. And she goes, but, and then we stopped in 1972 or whatever, 76, whatever year it is. I think it's 72. And then we never went back. So why do you think we didn't go back? And he says, yeah, that is really weird. Why didn't we ever go back? Why didn't we go? And he looks at the cameras. Why didn't we go? And so then people are just running with this idea that he said we didn't go to the moon. Why didn't we go to the moon? Why didn't we go? Or we didn't go. They like edit it so it says that. And it just, do you think that's accidental? Why do you think those things? So one of the last times, somebody I really liked, Nikki Matner, one of the last times her and I had regular communications. And I don't know, it's like, I don't know if it was arrogance that got in the way. I'm not really sure. But this was shortly after I had, that I discovered that, YouTube suggested that video about where did the dead bodies go from history, that tells you right off the bat that there's a definitive gap in the historical record when it comes to this one particular issue. Basically, that the rest of the video is bullshit. But that video was put out by a channel called Today I Watched or Today I Learned or something like that. So Nikki shares this video with me about the diamond hoax and the diamond conspiracy, how we've been tricked by the De Beers Corporation into buying this, plentiful resource and all the horrible things that go into it, blah, 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 blah. But it's this video just about how the astronomical prices of diamonds is all just manufactured bullshit. And they didn't really talk about who, they attribute it to De Beers and some woman, but they're not like, where do you go when you want to learn about diamonds? Don't they come from Antwerp? They don't go into the Doug the Head issue of things. But it's just this really, really fucking amazing video about how we should not be buying diamonds or falling for that bullshit anymore. The engagement rings and all that. It's all just this manufactured thing to put useless rocks in our hand, cheap, useless rocks that you can't get even half of what you paid for it when you go try to sell it. It's all just a huge scam. And I was amazed by how well this video was made. It almost looked like a movie. And I just initially, anytime I see that, I mean, I know how difficult production can be. So anytime somebody has this perfectly well done video, I'm skeptical. I am. That you just, not only do you happen to be really good at making videos, you also happen to be really good at snooping things out. And, it's what an amazing coincidence. You know, I'm sure you have a whole bunch of other history to back up that you just became this person overnight, you know. But what the fuck was I talking about? I don't even remember what else I was talking about. Now that it's, I'm even further from it. Holy shit. I was thinking about my lunch break when I was talking about this shit, and it made me go like, oh yeah, diamonds. That's what we're talking about. Diamonds. So I say to Nikki, like, first I go and I look and I find out that this is the very first video that this brand new Facebook page, Today I Watched or Today I Learned, had put out. And they put this out 2 days ago, and it already has like 1.5 million views and all these shares and all these things that sort of go against the Facebook narrative. Like, that's, you know, you start getting too many shares too quickly, Facebook will shut your shit down, blah, blah, that kind of shit, you know. And you think, like, this is a video that supposedly exposes the narrative. And this is going to make the rich people, you would think it would make them pretty upset. You know, this is a pretty big time video. And it's just weird to me, you know, how does this video get so many views in 2 days? And they just created the page. This is the first post they make. That just doesn't, you know, I just don't see it. I know that I've put stuff out before that, you know, by the end of the first day has 2,000 views and a whole bunch of shares and all that. And then it just sort of tapers right off. Which you would go, well, how does it initially get so much shit? And then what happens? How does the more something gets shared, the less it gets viewed and shared? That doesn't seem like that makes any sense. But I don't know if it was like a week later, 2 weeks later, their second video comes out. And this time, it's about how, of course, we went to the moon. Of course, we've been to the moon. That conspiracy about us not going to the moon, that's just crazy. Of course, we went to the moon. Look at the fuel. How could we have all that fuel on board of a rocket and not go to the moon with it? Right? Doesn't that make sense?
No, that makes no sense to me.
No, that's the argument. That
But that makes
the fuel, the amount of fuel on the rocket signifies that we clearly went to the moon.
no.
And I was just like, oh, you know, okay, so they lured us in with this wet your whistle, diamonds are you know, the diamond industry is fake, it's a fraud. Because they knew, you know, because of rappers and just, I mean, this video was seen by a few million people, but that's nothing. You know, a few million people questioning the legitimacy of diamonds because they maybe watched the video, if they even remember it, blah, blah, blah. That's not going to affect the diamond industry. They know that. But all those people, those conspiracy people that they earned their trust with the diamond video, they're now putting out the of course we went to the moon narrative. And it just fits. It just makes sense. And so, you know, it's crazy when you look at these coins and you look at this narrative that we're given. I mean, again, we're talking about the zodiac that was just figured out. It was just figured out. I'm trying to find out by who, but apparently, you know, this shows that a coin has a zodiac on it. Look at how crazy intricate that coin is. We don't make coins like that today. Our coins aren't even close to that. Got the fucking eagle on it, and you know, and you're like, I mean, I even look at the coins today and I think, wow, these are pretty impressive. There's some pretty fine detail on there. But this is another level. Look at that shit.
No, it is.
That's on another level.
Beautiful. It's
And to think like they're not putting Masonic symbolism on their coins. They're putting like universal zodiac symbolism on their coins. That seems different. Strangely enough, even though we don't live under a one world government, everybody makes the same basic kind of money. All the countries that they're different, they all fly flags. What do you just, is that a thing? If you're a country, you have to have a flag.
Yes.
Why?
So you can fly it and let people know where what territory.
This is mine. That's mine. I mean, it's like, and everybody that flies a flag, they all fall under the same basic, the same basic sort of design, color schemes, and isn't it? Isn't it interesting how everybody was like, this is how we make flags. They look like this. Okay, I'll make my flag like that too. Even though I don't like you and I don't like your American Western civilization and your rules and your blah, blah. How do we do the flags? Okay. Ours is going to be 3 colors and have a moon on it and a star. Yeah, that'll show you moon and star. You have your 50 stars and bars. What do you? Yeah, it's stupid. Looks just like the Union Jack. Yeah, it's stupid.
I'm missing another one of these somewhere.
I mean, it's fucking, it's silly. All right, so the division of the ecliptic into zodiacal signs originates in Babylonian astronomy during the first half. Because I was thinking, didn't I read this? But I know the first time it didn't say the first half. It just said the first millennium. But now it's the first half of the first millennium. So wait. The first half of the first millennium in the negative time. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Is that the second half by art standards, or is that the first half?
Oh, you ask too many questions.
I mean, it goes backwards. I want to know.
Okay, but
Are we
you ask too
talking?
many questions.
And does it?
Shush.
Does the months go
Just
backwards,
stop.
or do they have the same
Would you
month
just read
structure?
and learn what you're supposed to?
No, I'm serious. I want to know is the first half closer to the 0, or is it the 6 months closer to 0, or is it the 6 months closer to 1? Minus 1. The zodiac draws on stars in earlier Babylonian star catalogs, such as the, am I saying that right? MUL.APIN catalog, which was compiled around 1000 BC. Okay, so this is the zodiac circle with planets circa 1000. I disagree. I'm sorry, but it's what the fuck are we looking at here? I don't see how those are the planets. Just because they happen to number 2, 4, 6, 7 doesn't. I mean, what were they using to see Neptune and Saturn and all that stuff? And Neptune and Uranus. Is it 9 planets? We have 9 planets. Not including, including. Okay, so Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. So that's 9. Yeah, the 10th planet. Why was I so off there? Shows you how much I don't fuck around with this. I don't buy into that Nibiru shit anymore. I did. Some constellations can be traced even further back to Bronze Age, Old Babylonian Empire sources, including Gemini, the twins, from Sumerian. Ah, there we go. From the J's. That's what that stars and weird lines and like you look at this and you think, who's gonna write like this? You know how much time that would take? That would take you forever to write like that.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Look at how goofy that is. 3 stars. Some they look like the pegs that you use in those games where you gotta like build a triangle, put all the 10 things in without making them, you know what I'm talking about, the little pegs. You know what I'm talking about. Alright. Or Mas Tab Ba Gal Gal. Mastaba Gal Gal. The Great Twins. Mastaba Gal Gal. All with periods in between. Like they were real big on periods. Like they didn't use these letters, so why do we use these letters? Cancer, the crab from Sumerian, which is 3 stars, just like the first one is 3 stars, but 3 stars. And wow, that the top one is complicated, right? But look at this bottom one. That shit is crazy complicated. I guess that means the crab. Or Al-Ul, the crayfish, among others. So that's what I think is crazy. It's like, it's not like they look like a crab, or they look like, you know, Gemini, whatever the fuck Gemini is supposed to be, the twins. They don't look like that. Leo doesn't look like a lion. So why would anybody be like, that's a lion? And then other people be like, nah, that's a tiger. Does you see the stripes on it? I think it's some lynx. Around the end of the 5th century BC, so that's minus 400, Babylonian astronomers divided the ecliptic into 12 equal signs by analogy to 12 schematic months of 30 days each. I thought that was when we had 13 signs.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
I
that.
thought the zodiac was originally 13 signs. Why are they talking about it was originally divided into 12 equal signs?
No, it wasn't. Some people still think it is 13.
Well, how could it not be? How did they get it wrong? They invented it. So how could they get it wrong and we got it right? This isn't talking about how originally there were 13 and they got rid of one. It's just telling you that there originally were 12. Each sign contained 30 degrees of celestial longitude, thus creating the first known celestial coordinate system. According to calculations by modern astrophysics, the zodiac was introduced between 409 and 398 BC. They got it down to an 11-year window in the minus. Oh, it went by your leg. Between 409 and 398 BC. What was it like when they were going from 401 to 400?
I don't know.
And did they do that?
Right.
How does that work? And okay, so let's just say the historical record that the year that we decided it was changed, which it was in 525 by a guy called Dionysus.
and he decided that our historical record needed to be more Christ-centered.
Yes.
So he just decided it was 525. I mean, I get, how would this guy have, it's hard for me to even put it into words, but to think about, like, okay, it's 525. We're told that as far as we go, I mean, we're magnificent, right? Because we're the ancient Greeks and the ancient this, like, I'm so confused by who we're supposed to be. Are we supposed to be these peasant people who lived in mud shacks and in, or are we the people that built these buildings that still exist to this day somehow?
Yes. Yes.
Which one is it? But even still, so this guy was Dionysus. He was this Italian guy who lived in this, like, small little Italian village, and he just was like, where was he getting his information to be able to date things back 525 years? What source did he have? Even if, okay, so you're saying he went to the library and there was, like, what? Like animals that were like, like a duck had webbed feet that were written on and a light would shine through, and that was like their version of microfiche. And then the duck would look at the camera and be like, "Meh, it's a living." Meh. Is that how that works?
Yes.
I mean, seriously though, where was this guy getting his, okay, I mean, we're talking about, for us to sit here, for me to go, okay, so 525 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
that's that's the 1500s.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
For me to sit here and be like, all right, like, for me in modern day times, to be able to give you a timeline and be like, all right, check this out, follow this to this will get you to this is this, and that's how we know it's, I mean, how would you even verify it? What, it was a different year. According to the Gregorian calendar, whatever was in use at the time, it was a different year. So what was he mathematically using as his, okay, so history is at that time being recorded as a different time, as a different year. So what math formula did he use to calculate what year those things were happening by his new standard? Or, like, how, no, that's not too much. I'd love to know those answers. How does that work? This guy, this little Italian guy in his Italian fucking villa, eating his spaghetti and shit, even though spaghetti probably wasn't invented yet. So eating his, I don't know, mana. he's somehow, I mean, is he going, but how would you do that? How do you, if I took your phone away and told you to figure out a timeline for 500 years ago, you can't use computers. How would you do it?
I have to go to the library and get the encyclopedias out.
But then you would, can you imagine how,
Nowadays they would have not a fucking clue.
but so how long do you think it would
It would take a while.
it would take you to, and now you don't have a car. You have to get
Walk.
to the library, however
Walk your
that
happy
is.
ass.
Walk
Yeah.
there and back every day. And it can't even begin to sort of imagine what the conditions were like, but you had to do that and then keep your information in your little trapper keeper.
Yes.
They didn't have Velcro, so I don't know how they would do it. But I mean, this is just,
They're notebooks.
the logistics of this is just outrageous to me.
And so this guy figures out that it's 525. He doesn't figure it out. He decides that it's 525, and then he goes to like the the timekeepers. I don't fucking know who he goes to. Like he goes to the king of whatever little region of Italy he's in, because back then Italy was it was not like one big Italy. It was a whole bunch of little regions. He went to whoever that was and was like, "Oh, hey, by the way, it's 525 now." And they were like, "How do you know?" And he was like,
I figured it out.
"I have this chart."
I just did it. Just fucking. All right, it's 525. Shut up.
These things, trust me, 232 years ago, this thing happened, according to my sources. Don't believe me? Read the book. You're not gonna know that. But like, so everybody knows it's whatever year it is. There's no, I don't know. Maybe there was a question of it. I don't know. But somehow this dude travels in his horse car to wherever he needs to go to meet with timekeepers, and he presents his slides. I'm not really sure how. I can't imagine. Like, imagine it nowadays. Imagine me being like, oh shit, I figured out that it's actually the year 2824. I need to go to the Washington and go speak to the president about this. And then I go, I walk my ass to Washington. By the time I get there, I ring the doorbell on the White House. I mean, can you imagine how would I even begin to get into the White House?
They wouldn't want you.
Hey, can you tell the president that I figured out that we're actually in the year 2824 and that, or 2825, and that we need to go through and just completely redo all the history books and everything like that to reflect the year 2825? Do you think they'd be like, hang on a second?
Hold my beer.
Right. They'd be like, dude, get the fuck out of here. And you're like, no, I got charts and graphs and shit. They'd call the white coats on you so fucking fast. And yet somehow in 520, in whatever year it was, this guy went to the timekeepers and convinced them that it was 525. So then everybody everywhere was like, okay, we'll have to backdate everything, and then everything prior to 525, we're going to have to do the math and make that the minus stuff so that the people at 25, when they look back, they'll know that this happened in 232 BC, because this is, we have accurate records to, like, do you understand how ridiculous that is? To think that this guy in Italy would figure this out and tell the people, and then the people in Europe, like the people in France, the people in Germany, the people in Russia, the people all over the place were just like, what? Oh, okay, it's a new date now. Let's just get the erasers out and just all this go back. Okay, so there's a formula here. Because, you have to figure again, once we get past 1. Oh, no, there's no 0. By the way, remember when you're doing your math, it goes from +1 to -1. No 0. Make sure you get it all right. We need to know that, the zodiac was created in the first half of the -1 BC. They'll need to know that in 2025. It's crazy to me how, like, I can remember thinking along these lines growing up, but because there was no outlet, and it's not like I had a fucking fake screen to talk to,
it's not like you just sat there and worked it out. You keep to yourself and just sort of accept it and move on. But now because of I have to create the content or else this will be a pretty boring fucking video. I get to talking about it, but in working through like I'm doing what I wish you guys would do to me. Look at the narrative being presented and then pull it apart. And this is how I just when we're talking about things like this happening in the first millennia, in the first half of the first millennium BC, to think about what went into me knowing that and how that was all just figured out and preserved according to what they want us to know. That's fucking phenomenal. Especially when you then think they lost the telemetry data for the greatest achievement known to man, which is us going to the moon. Like that's an unrivaled, doesn't matter what was done. We left the planet, went, hung out, jumped around, hit a golf ball or two, drove in a little dune buggy, and then we're able to eject ourselves from that, be caught by the circling space vessel that was still there, while also somehow picking up the hardware that launched the thing. Like I don't know where all of it's supposed to fit together. When you start looking at what you're presented, like in the footage, and then what you're presented as to what came back, and like where's the cone thing? Where did all this stuff fit into the cone? Where'd the doom buggy go? Like all of it. Where did the launch pad go? After they went back and they picked up the launch pad too. How the fuck did they do that? What, did they have anchors and shit? Did they have ropes? They threw some ropes down and just grabbed a hold of it. Like, it's all just fucking insane, but you'll never know because the rooms, they're just reams and reams of data that they had regarding all of this stuff. They lost it. Between 1969 and now, they just lost it. Greatest achievement known to man, lost it. But we know first half of the millennium minus one, we know that they were throwing that zodiac around. Isn't that amazing? Seems strange that that algorithm isn't picking up on the fact that I have 6 likes out of the 8 people watching. You would think they would then, obviously, if 8 people are watching and I have 6 likes, that's a pretty good percentage. I know it's been more than 8, but still, I mean, that's still pretty good. Why would it be so low? Where is everyone? Seven. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. Don't forget to get your free download, www.the-builderberg, BILDERBERG. It will be in the description after the fact. There we go. Nope, we still haven't got the 8. Anyway, so around the 5th century BC, Babylonian astronomers, according to calculations by modern astrophysics, the zodiac was introduced between 409 and 498 BC. That's what I'm saying. Like, we lost the telemetry data for the greatest thing we've ever achieved, but we know that there's a 12-year window 2,000 plus years ago in which the zodiac was introduced. It was introduced. I mean, that doesn't even, by who? To who? You who? Woohoo! Think about that shit. That wording is very interesting. It's not like the zodiac was created. It was, it was figured out. It was first mapped out. It was introduced.
What a very, really, really weird way to say it. During Persian rule.
It was discovered prior to that, but introduced then. I think was their.
You're assuming that you're doing the thing that you always do, which is try to sort of add details or whatever that your intelligent brain. Well, this must because the narrative that we're given is stupid. It won't make any sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in that hole that doesn't. And we're not doing that. Or they're not doing that. You're doing that. They're relying on you to do that. But you have no idea. You're just that's what your intelligence does. That's what you've been programmed to do, to fill in the holes instead of investigating the holes. During Persian rule and probably within a very few years of 401 BC. So it's within 12 years, but it's probably closest to 401 BC. Yep. Unlike modern astrologers who place the beginning of the sign of Aries at the position of the sun at the vernal equinox in the northern hemisphere, March equinox. Why? Don't know. Babylonian astronomers fixed the zodiac in relation to stars, placing the beginning of Cancer at the rear twin star, Weird B Geminorum, and the beginning of Aquarius at the rear star of the goatfish, weird shape Capricorni. Yes. So, what's happening here? Why is there these differences? Who decided these things? These were the questions that what's up, TXT? These are the questions that I was asking the Jehovah's Witness when they came. Like, so you guys go with this New Testament Bible, right? Well, who did that translation? Oh, it was the elders. Do you know any of the elders? Yeah, I've met them. Really? Like, could you actually get them to sort of, do you know what parts they did? Do you know how they came up with the translation? What they did to, why they changed the words they did change? And do you know how that all came to be? Well, no. Well, don't you think that's kind of important? Like, why people decided to go with what they went with. Isn't that important? Shouldn't there be evidence or reason behind why somebody tells you something? You know, all this shit is told to you because you just believe it. I mean, literally, how could any of us begin to prove anything I'm reading? I'm reading what most people would consider the proof. Right? Like, this is, you would look it up and you would say, okay, the Wikipedia, that's sort of the standard government source, right? Government controls Wikipedia. They control the edits and all that shit. So, if you were to be in school and you said, I got this information from Wikipedia, it would be an acceptable answer for your book report. So this is what they want us to know, right? But we don't ever bother to ask, like, how did we get here? Who made these decisions? How did they come to these decisions? And we're not supposed to. We're just supposed to believe it. The rear star of the goatfish. Due to the and like I say, as far as proving this goes, like, this is the proof. That's what I mean. Like, this is Wikipedia, or if you want to go to like NASA.gov or whatever, it's going to say the same thing. How could any of you begin to prove any of this shit? None of you follow the fucking procession of the equinox. None of you are out there every night going, okay, everything's all in order like it's supposed to be. It's actually really weird when you start paying attention. One thing you'll notice is that the sun doesn't set like you would expect it to. We get to the solstices, and the sun starts
it goes from like if you were the compass, it goes from your southern point over to your northern point. But if you pay attention, you'll see the sun, especially once it passes over that northern point, it starts getting light again. The sun will set in different spots. It doesn't set progressively further and further and further. Some days it's way north, some days it's way south. It's actually kind of strange. But I don't know what I'm talking about. Due to the precession of the equinoxes, the time of the year the sun is in a given constellation has changed since Babylonian times, as the point of March equinox has moved from Aries to Pisces. Why? Because the divisions were made into equal arcs of 30 degrees each. They constituted an ideal system of reference for making predictions about a planet's longitude, which matters because, however, Babylonian techniques of observational measurements were in a rudimentary stage of evolution. They measured the position of a planet in reference to a set of normal stars close to the ecliptic, plus 9 degrees, plus minus 9 degrees of latitude. The normal stars were used as observational reference points to help position a planet within the elliptical coordinated system. And again, multiple people at multiple times came up with multiple versions of this. In Babylonian astronomical diaries, a planet position was generally given with respect to a zodiacal sign alone, although less often in specific degrees with a sign. When the degrees of longitude were given, they were expressed with reference to the 30 degrees of the zodiacal sign, i.e., not with a reference to the continuous 360-degree elliptical. You get that?
No.
An astronomical ephemerides? Ephemerides? The position, is that ephemerides?
Yes.
Ephemerides. The position of significant astronomical ephemerides. Significant astronomical phenomenon were computed in sexagasmal.
That sounds erotic.
Sexagasmal fractions of a degree equivalent to minutes and seconds of arc. For daily ephemerides, the daily positions of a planet were not as important as the astrologically significant dates when the planet crossed from one zodiacal sign to the next. Hebrew astronomy and astrology. Well, this is different. Knowledge of the Babylonian zodiac is said to be reflected in the Hebrew Bible. E.W. Bullinger. Yeah, we did that too. Yeah, we did that. It's reflected in the Bible. We did that too. We did it first. Interpreted the creatures that appear in the book of Ezekiel 1 through 10 as the middle signs of the 4 quarters of the zodiac, with the lion as Leo, the bull as Taurus, the man as Aquarius, and the eagle as a higher aspect of Scorpio.
Oh, this shit wasn't gonna go anywhere.
That's okay, so I could see how you go lion, Leo, and bull, Taurus. As soon as you go man and Aquarius, and then you go the eagle as a higher aspect of the scorpion. What? That's a big stretch there. Some authors have linked the signs of the zodiac with the 12 tribes of Israel.
I mean, what isn't linked with the 12 tribes of Israel? Come on now.
It's all about the 12 tribes.
Everything is. Everything is about the 12 tribes of Israel and how they suffered throughout because they wandered throughout the desert. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Come on. We've been wandering this desert for 30 years and I am very, very tired. Don't worry. We only have 10 more years of wandering around the desert. Big, large community of people wandering around a desert that's not that big for 40 years. How did they survive? What water were they drinking every day? Especially like their aminals. What aminal water did they have? Horses drinking 10 to 15 gallons a day. I don't know what camels drink. The sheep, I mean, they had to eat and shit. It's not like they would have had wheat. How did they have food for 40 years? Do you know how stupid that story is? Do you know that we're going to have to do Exodus next? Because that is fucking stupid. And with the lunar Hebrew calendar, which has 12 lunar months in a lunar year, Martin and others have argued that Martin, just Martin. 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 Definitely. How y'all feeling? Martin. Martin and others have argued that the arrangement of the tribes around the tabernacle, reported in the book of Numbers, corresponded to the order of the zodiac, with Judah, Reuben, Ephraim, and Dan representing the middle signs of Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio, respectively. Such connections were taken up by Thomas Mann, who, in his novel Joseph and His Brothers, attributed characteristics of the sign of the zodiac to each tribe in his rendition of The Blessing of Jacob. Get the fuck out of here, man. This is the dumbest of the dumb.
All right.
Remember when everyone started talking about Ophiuchus back in 2012? Not necessarily. You know what?
I don't know who Ophiuchus is.
I remember in previously when everybody was talking about Nibiru and shit was gonna kill him. 2012 was gonna be the year that is the Mayan calendar and all that shit. I remember that. Exodus. How do you spell Exodus? EXCUODUS.
No, EXODUS, I think.
EXODUS. That's what I said. Duh. Exodus. You hate this one. You can't hate this one. Jews' exodus from Muslims' countries. Why is this broken up like this? The Exodus, the biblical story of the... Okay, that's what I want. Should I read? Okay. Departure of the Israelites. David Roberts. In 1829, the dude thought that the world of Israel and whatnot looked like that. That was his Why would he think it looked like that? Would you be like, yeah, a couple thousand years ago, that's what the world looked like. They were building shit like that. Look at the fucking... Don't look at the thing you're supposed to look at. Look at everything around it. Why did... I bet you these buildings all existed. That's why they're in this picture. And the pyramids are in the background.
So I'm supposed to now cut this and put the other end down?
Well, wait. There are lots of pyramids in the background. There apparently might even be a huge pyramid way in the background. Where the fuck is this supposed to take place? Look at all these intricate buildings. This guy took all the time to paint all this shit out of fantasy? He just dreamt this all up? Threw all those pyramids back in there and shit? Like, look at this. Look at how incredible this is. 1829. In 1829, a guy painted that. In 1829.
Yeah.
I mean, you can paint anything, doesn't mean it's there.
But where would the inspiration for all of these like specific buildings, pyramids, all this kind of shit, where would this come from? This is 1829. Can you man the helm for a minute there, lady?
I don't know
I gotta go
where
wee wee.
it could come from, but
Please.
I don't know.
Here. Please tell me there's no one here.
I think we have a house full of kids. That's pretty much how that goes. I'm in the process of making some jewelry, so I have been barely paying attention to what he's been talking about, but I don't know. As far as those old buildings and shit, like, it is incredible. How somebody could have done that is truly mind-blowing, but I got too much other shit on my head. It's like there's not enough space for it all. There's so many questions. There's so much knowledge out there that we may or may not ever get our hands on to even get these answers. It's kind of scary when you think about it, but, you know, it is what it is. I don't know how I'm supposed to get this tight and get the end clasp on. So I'm making an eyeglass chain with different crystals. And on the ends of the chain, you got to cut that chain. And then I have to put this little tiny clasp, I don't know if you can see it in the tray, wrap it around the chain, and then crimp it shut. And then from that, there's a little loop end that I can then attach the other eyeglass piece onto. It's just, this shit's not easy. Sounds a lot easier than it actually ends up being. I started off doing it on like this, they call it beading cord. It's like a fish line, thick fish line, but not too thick. And all of these beads, since they're not glass, they're actual stones, they're crystals, it's heavy. And kept breaking them, and then you can't tie a knot in it to end it, so then you have to use glue, and it's just, and then it's delicate, you're afraid it's going to snap and all the beads are going to fall off. So I ended up finding a thin enough chain to fit through the holes of all the beads to make it sturdier, because believe it or not, you cannot find a chain for your glasses so it can hang around your neck instead of getting tangled in your hair, all beaded like this. I haven't been able to find one. I found one that was like half beans, half chain, you know, and who knows if they were real stone. But it was like $45 or some shit. Screw that. Make my own. I have a bunch of beads that are all stones. I don't even like some of the glass beads, so I used one on the end for my little eye. But the rest are all stones.
Work with your brother, dude.
Work with your bro, brothers. Gotta love them.
No.
So now
Eight
here
siblings,
is
too.
my challenge. So they're all on. I gotta cut the chain and put the little claspy thing on the end so I can put the other end on without there being slack.
So just pretend like it's cheese and you're sleeping. Because she cuts all kinds of cheese while she's sleeping.
I'm so proud that it's all done.
It looks great.
Now I just gotta
Your old
figure
lady,
out that
your old lady chain.
Right.
All right. The Exodus is the founding myth. I love when it starts with stuff like that. And it's crazy to me that people don't, like, they don't realize, they're telling you, first and foremost, this is bullshit. It's a myth.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. Obviously, they got that from somebody. Of the Israelites, whose narrative is spread over 4 of the 5 books of Pentateuch, specifically Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy.
Can I have that? There, Smokey McSmokes a lot. Being feminine is better than being masculine, yeah, until that fucking time bomb goes off. Fucking hey, man. You're riddled with time bombs. The 2 things that got you all your fucking attention and drinks and all that shit, those are 2 fucking time bombs. And then you got that time fucking A-bomb uterus
No, I don't.
just waiting to go
No,
off.
I do not.
Well, women, just in general.
That bitch is gone. Gone. Gone.
Sucks.
No, it does not suck. It being gone is very good for me.
No, I'm saying the whole notion of like you guys are just self-destruct machines.
No, it sucks.
It's crazy. It's crazy how many horrible things can go wrong with your pussy. It's just insane. Your titties, your pussy, all that shit. It's not like women have like specific arm cancers and shit. Nope. They just have pussy cancers and ass cancers, and it's just awful. We all have lung cancers and shit like that, but women, I mean, we do get the prostate cancers. No doubt about it. We have our time bombs as well.
But you're
Gotta make sure you don't live long enough.
much fewer.
Much fewer and much less sensitive.
Well, they found cures. They found cures for prostate cancer far before the female cancers.
Because there's so many. You can't blame them.
Because it's a male-driven society.
No, it's because there's just so fucking many.
No.
Fallopian tube cancer, and ovary cancer, and fucking whatever. It's the same thing. And cervix cancer. Like, it's not just like one cancer. Each thing is a whole bunch of cancers. It's just and for some reason medicines you take can make you have cancers in those places. Coincidentally.
Or infections in places that people don't ever get infections.
Your taint. I gotta love the taint infections.
Yeah.
Which is weird too, because we're supposed to be able to live 120 years. But it doesn't seem to happen very much. The narrative of Exodus describes a history, not an history.
3 p.m. I gotta meet somebody at 7-Eleven.
Uh-oh, brown chicken, brown cow.
No.
Describes a history of Egyptian bondage. Wait, hang on a second. Somebody's gonna buy this. Anyway, sorry. The narrative of Exodus describes a history of Egyptian bondage of the Israelites, followed by their exodus from Egypt through the passage in the Red Sea in the pursuit of the promised land under the leadership of Moses.
Oh shit, no.
The story of Exodus is what?
You can't meet top 5.
The story of Exodus is central in Judaism. It is recounted daily in Jewish prayers and celebrated in festivals such as Passover. where they just kill as many fucking people as they can. I can't even begin to think what Passover this year is going to be. They are going to really commit mass murder. How about this? How about, I don't want to do another one. I don't want to do another one. That was risky last time when I said I would quit if something didn't happen. I told you guys if Israel didn't pull off on October 7th by December of that year, I told you guys back in like June that it was coming and there was going to be the false flag, blah, blah, blah. No Israelis were going to die, but they would say they would, blah, 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 blah. I said if they didn't do that by December, I would quit doing this whole thing. And I'm tempted to say if there's not a, story that someone attacks Israel on the first, the first day or the day before Passover, and then Israel responds exponentially, in over if that doesn't happen, I'm not going to say I'm going to quit, but I'm tempted to say it. We'll say that much. Because I can guarantee you that this year lots and lots of people are going to die over Passover. It's called Passover. But they really like to kill during Passover, so I think there's something big coming. Early Christians saw the Exodus as a typological prefiguration of resurrection and salvation by Jesus. The Exodus is also recounted in the Quran as part of the extensive referencing of the life of Moses, a major prophet in Islam. Gee, how convenient. The narrative has also resonated with various groups in more recent centuries, such as among African Americans striving for freedom and civil rights, and in liberation theology. Right, because, blacks and Jays, it's interchangeable what they've been through and how they've responded. They're saying blacks are identifying with Exodus with Jays because, the fleeing of persecution and going and walking around the desert for 40 years is something I can see black people doing, especially black women. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. I just got my hair did. It's hot as fuck, and there's some like 3-foot deep water I can put a floaty in and sit in. I can't swim. The consensus of modern scholars on the historicity of the Exodus is that the Pentateuch does not give an accurate account of the origins of the Israelites, who appear instead to have formed as an entity in the central highlands of Canaan in the late 2nd millennium BCE, around the time of the late Bronze Age collapse. So, the historical record doesn't match, the manufactured historical record doesn't match their claimed narrative. That's interesting. Most modern scholars believe. Oh wait. Late Bronze Age collapse from the indigenous Canaanite culture. Most scholars believe that some elements of the story of Exodus might have some historical basis, but that any such basis has little resemblance to the story told in the Pentateuch. While the majority of modern scholars date the composition of the Pentateuch to the period of the Achaemenid Empire, 5th century BCE, some of the elements of this narrative are older, since Allusions to the story are made by 8th century BCE prophets such as Amos and Hosea in the Bible. The Exodus story tells of the enslavements of the Israelites, the plague of Egypt, the departure of the Israelites from Egypt, the revelations at Mount Sinai, and the Israelite wanderings in the wilderness up to the borders of Canaan.
Okay, I need a break.
Its message is that the Israelites were delivered from slavery by Yahweh their God, and therefore belong to him by covenant. So, all of you Christians out there that are like, Jesus' name is Yahweh.
There's a lot of them.
You don't realize what you're saying, I guess. Again, look at this. This is Israel in Egypt, Edward Pointer, 1867. So all of these paintings, the other one was from 1829, they're all like, post 1800.
Yeah. So,
Because the narrative doesn't exist prior to that.
right.
Look at that shit. Again, what is this guy's inspiration? You're telling me this random guy had this inspiration that has all this, like, he got it all right. That's what we're saying it looked like, and this random guy also got it right based on the books and shit he was looking at before he decided to paint this painting.
Yes. I'll be back.
Are we serious? Look at this shit.
Keep the cats off my shit.
You're right. You need to do something with that.
I don't know what to do.
Put a blanket over it.
I don't want it to fall or the clips to fall.
Well, it's going to, because either that or the cats are going to get it.
Not if you just keep them.
I'm not going to be up here any longer. I'm done. I'm going to do this tomorrow because this is a long-ass narrative and I'm so cashed. So hopefully I remember to do this tomorrow.
I can't put a blanket over it to lay on it.
No, they won't. No, they won't. Anyway, have a great day. Pedophiles, kill yourself. Don't forget to get your free shit. Go look in the description, blah, 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 blah. Yeah.